Nature Solutionaries is a podcast about conservationists who do amazing things for nature and bring inspiration into our lives. Hi, welcome back to Season 2 of Nature Solutionaries, in which I'm exploring the work of organizations that integrate family planning with community-based natural resource management and biodiversity conservation. Today, we're off to Madagascar. Madagascar is home to more than 200,000 species, and it's estimated that 80% are found nowhere else on Earth. The most iconic animal is probably the cute lemur. Did you know that there are over 100 lemur species? I had no idea until this interview. Unfortunately, many species on this island are critically threatened. But the animals aren't the only ones suffering. Despite considerable natural resources, Madagascar also has one of the world's highest poverty rates, and over a third of households lack adequate food. The country is very vulnerable to climate change. Over the past 35 years, the island has been hit by more than 50 natural disasters, which have affected the lives of more than half of the population. On this episode, I'm talking to Nantenaina Andriamalala, a coordinator of the PHE Madagascar Network, and Hanitra Rakotojaona, Community Conservation Rural Development Coordinator at Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust. Hanitra, you work at the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust, which is a member of the PHE network. Can you explain to us what the Enabling Change project is and how Durrell applies the population health and environment approach in practice?
The Enabling Change project is a kind of a model of conservation livelihoods project to address the issue of reducing this reliance on natural resources and then to reduce pressures on biodiversity and ecosystem. The project Theory of Change recognizes this positive value of integrated approach that links aspects of community well-being, community health, with the state of the natural environment. And I think this holistic approach of rural development and conservation is also the basis of the PHE model.
Can you speak more concretely about what issues you're working on? For example, what species you're trying to protect, in which area you work?
Of course. This project targeted free-man protected areas in Madagascar, where we have our key species. The first one is the Lake Alocha protected area, which is a complex of a lake, marsh, and watershed. And the marsh is the habitat of the endemic bamboo lemur with a critically endangered status. So this lemur is only found in these marsh habitats. It is one of only the aquatic lemur of Madagascar. The second one is Bali Bay National Park, a little bit in the northwest, and where are located the plowshed tortoise, which are the most endangered tortoises in the world, because currently there are, I think, less than 400 population in the wild. And the third one is Sophia Wetland with a Ramsar status, which is the release site of the one of the rarest duck in the world, which is a Madagascar pochard. With this project, we've adopted a holistic approach that integrated four main strategies, which are improving food security, enhancing household financial independence, providing reproductive health support to communities, and improving governance at local level. These three conservation sites share common features in terms of threat on biodiversity and ecosystems, that is, a massive destruction and loss of species habitats in favor of livelihood activities like agriculture, as the case of Alocha protected area, where the marsh, which is the bamboo lemur habitats, are burned and converted into rice field. For the case of Bali Bay National Park, the context is a bit different, as we lose great number of plowshare tortoises in the wild due to a high level of species trafficking. The main reasons of these are because 80% of these nature-dependent communities live beyond the extreme poverty, and their main livelihoods are based on agriculture, farming, and fisheries, and they are economically vulnerable.
How are you trying to improve the livelihood of these people who are dependent on these resources? For example, maybe they're even dependent on selling these tortoises to traffickers.
We have generally been able to improve farmers' traditional farming techniques to make them more sustainable, more resilient, and productive, thanks to climate-smart agriculture techniques. So, with the project, we have been able to intervene, particularly during the lean season when communities are food insecure, and tend to turn into the natural resource to meet their need. Likewise, the support we have provided to fishermen associations around the Bali Bay protected areas, combined with the marine resource management and governance systems under the LMMA approach, locally marine managed area, has helped to better monitor and secure marine areas against species poaching.
Okay, that sounds great. Nantenaina, how do you cooperate with Durrell on these projects?
We are supporting its member. For example, if they have a need in terms of resource, technical resource, of course, we are here to provide that. We are providing guidelines. We are supporting in terms of identifying, expertise of partners that can be connected with Durrell in terms of its implementation. Just to clarify, the network is not implementing the approach, but as a network, it's facilitating and supporting coordination between the diverse members. So this is mainly what we are doing. We are supporting them. We are following how is the progress, if there is anything that we can support, for example, in terms of materials they can use from the ground. We have produced different material that can be used and that have been shared available to the network members. So yeah, we are really supporting them in terms of technical expertise.
And you're also helping to create partnerships, right? Hanitra, what partners does Durrell work with, and what has been your experience with those partnerships? I'm asking because I heard that an integrated, holistic approach yields better results, but it's also more challenging in terms of organization and funding because there are more parties involved.
Durrell works particularly with Maristops Madagascar to deliver reproductive health support in our intervention site, and this already since 2018. We are working together to deliver long-term family planning services at our community villages, which are located in one of the most remote and isolated areas of Madagascar. So, thanks to Maristops, they are providing all the medical equipment and services to Durrell. Durrell's roles are mainly facilitating the travel and accommodation of Maristops agent, and also sensitizing community and establishing demand at community and household level. This intervention with Maristops since many years now is very impactful because it really helps to empower women within our communities and to enable us to reduce gender inequalities and even more to allow our women community to be more and more active in development and conservation initiatives.
So, yeah, that sounds great. And it's something new for me because I previously thought that, or what I've learned from the organizations that I interviewed over the past few months, is that a lot of these PHE organizations did both conservation and family planning and sustainable livelihoods, it can also work differently. You can focus on biodiversity conservation and sustainable livelihoods, and then you can have someone else, a different organization, joining you and doing something that they focus on, for example, family planning, and you build this partnership which is more effective, right? So that's great.
Yeah, it helps us a lot engage in communities, mainly women at an isolated area, because those women, as you know, in rural Malagasy societies, the roles of women in the societies are not well considered. So when we have started to partner with Maristops and considering the real needs of those women in isolated area, they become more and more confident to work with us, to be engaged, to be committed to the work we are doing locally in the field. And we can really feel that they really want to develop themselves and to participate in the development, of course, of their household, but also the villages.
It's true that when people can see a direct benefit of protecting nature on their lives, they are more likely to participate in nature protection or conservation than if there is no benefit for them. Nantenaina, has PHE Network contributed to creating this partnership between Durrell and Maristops International?
Yes, we have been involved in terms of the beginning of this partnership. Going back to what you have said before, it's really the partnership model who works from the lessons that we learned. You know, Madagascar has a long story of PHE, and one of the great lessons that we learn is there's different models that we can implement PHE. The first one is it is one single organization who implement all different topics, the program, which is heavy, because that requires staffing, that requires more financial resources, and sometimes that's led to heavy, and it's not difficult, but a bit complex to implement for one single organization. And in parallel, the partnership model is easy to implement. There's a cost sharing between the partners. There is, it's like just complementing the expertise between the two organizations. And no, that makes sense, but one conservation organization will not be really experts in health topics, and vice versa. Health organization will not be experts on conservation or natural resources management. But the thing is, it's a complementary topic, and they can just coordinate that, strengthen the trend planning, strengthen the trend coordination, strengthen the different relationship from the office to the ground, so they have a better impact for us for one community.
And regarding building these partnerships, did these organizations initially come to you and say, hey, we want to cooperate with other organizations, can you help us? Or did you approach them and explain to them that it's better if they cooperate instead of doing everything at once?
Some of them come to us directly, but the majority is identify the opportunities from the meeting that we are calling nationally and regionally as well.
Hanitra, what lessons have you learned from this project?
From the Enabling Change project, it was very important for us to consider this human dimension on the system. That means you should consider the human aspect as the main cause of this environmental degradation and the resource depletion is human-driven. And that's why, to be efficient in finding the appropriate strategies, you should always consider this human dimension in finding those strategies. And it's not easy, but the strategies themselves should be socially equitable, economically profitable, and environmentally sustainable, which is not, for us, not easy at all. Yeah.
I like one sentence that you have on your website. Saving species from extinction in their natural habitat almost always means securing the futures of people whose lives depend on those habitats. I think it's so true, and for a long time, conservation ignored this fact, but I think that most modern conservation organizations are picking up this approach. So, until now, we haven't mentioned a lot of statistics or data, and since we're on Nature Solutionaries, where I like to take a solutions approach to interviews, I like to dig a bit deeper into the impact of your PHE project. So, can you tell me what the Enabling Change project has achieved?
With our support on agriculture and food security, we have helped farmers to improve their farming techniques. We have engaged more than 10,000 of farmers engaging on a climate resilient technique, and the project have been able to intervene, particularly during the lean season when communities are food insecure and tend to turn into the natural resources to meet their needs. With the family planning intervention, for example, we have given the possibility for communities to have a choice and a better birth control to women, and women are then more likely to join our development activities, like joining the development group like the VSLA or Village Saving Loan groups. Women are also willing to take part in agriculture and farming activities, particularly in vegetable gardening and short cycle farming. Those communities are also more engaged to conservation initiatives implemented by Durrell, mainly the ecosystem restoration like the marshes and the mangroves. And for example, in terms of governance, we have really noticed an increase in the participation of women in joining those community-based conservation groups that we call VOE. And at the same time, there was also increase in number of women who are taking responsibilities within the association as being part of the association as executive members. So we have observed as well some positive conservation outcomes, and some key examples are, with this Enabling Change project, a reduction of marsh burning, mainly during the critical period of lean season. So during the 5 years of intervention.
I'm sorry, you mentioned lenses. What is that?
Lean season is a period of the year when communities normally don't have enough food. They are food insecure. Mm-hmm. This happens mainly during the dry season between, let's say, it depends on the site, but between August to November, and during which the only solution of rural communities are to turn into the natural resources to meet their needs.
What other alternatives do you offer to these people?
We provide some alternatives to farmers to do, for example, short cycle farming activities like poultry breeding, duck farming, so that they can have more incomes during this period. We have also initiated them on the system of community-based saving group, that like the kind of ESLA association, during which when during the lean season, they can take some credits through this association and, for example, start over business so that they can have some incomes during those critical periods. For our sites, we are also developing our alternative cropping activities, which can be developed during this critical period. For example, market gardening with watering techniques. So during those critical period of time, those communities can have either source of income or they can be food secure. Yeah.
It just reminds me of one interviews that I did in the past with Professor Willem van Kottem, and we talked about desertification and how to tackle, food insecurity. And he came up with a lot of solutions for poor people or for subsistence farmers on how they can grow vegetables, the vertical gardening and just very simple techniques of growing vegetables in plastic bottles and so on. Maybe I can share that interview with you. It was quite popular, and it can be applied in any context.
Very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to add that I found this information that Durrell helped support over 2,700 women, and over 2,000 community members have strengthened their financial position through the community-based saving groups, as you mentioned. And when you were talking about the farmers, over 3,000 local farmers have been trained in sustainable farming techniques. So you've achieved a lot. So what are your plans now with this project? How long are you going to continue this project? Do you have any new plans for the future?
Initially, the vision for this project is to develop this project as a viable rural development model applicable to nature-dependent people across Madagascar that increase individual well-being and to reduce pressures on the natural environment. Thanks to Jersey Overseas Aid, this project will be extend for another 5 years until 2027.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a very good news for us and for our communities. During the last couple of years, we have been able also to scale up this model in the other region of Madagascar, because the initial intervention sites were based on Freeman protected areas, and thanks to our support from Darwin initiatives, we were able to scale up this model to over 2 protected areas in a little bit in the southwestern part of Madagascar.
Yeah, it's so important to replicate this model elsewhere. And Nantenaina, I think that you have a lot of experience sharing these success stories through your network, right?
Yeah, definitely, yes. And that is one of our focus as well. That, as I say, we are encouraging organizations to share their experiences through webinar, through the partners gathering as well. So we include the different session of sharing experiences in the different workshop learning as well. We are documenting that, and we share with our network member. We know that within our network organization member like Durrell, we have partners member who have really a good experience, and we want to capture that to be shared with others, to inspire them and to guide them as well in terms of innovation, some of activities that they can replicate in their sites, different model they can use or try to pilot as well. I would say from one of the key activities we facilitate is the learning exchange visit, where we bring the partners in the field. For example, in one site of one hosting organization already have an active partnership, active approach, have experiences to share. So we bring the people there, and they can see, concretely from their eyes how this is implemented in the sites. They can interact with the communities, with a member of the communities. They can ask questions, how the communities are involved in the project, what are the challenges, and they can learn from that. So they can see and they can replicate, they can bring, but at the same time, they can bring improvement as well. If they have, the visitor, the participant can make a suggestion, and we include this in, in the process of peer evaluation or accreditation within our quality charter, and everyone can share advice, comments, and it's really the way that we are promoting this exchange and replication as well.
I'm so amazed that people are so cooperative in Madagascar, or that these conservation and reproductive health organizations are so cooperative. Because in my experience, for example, 1 or 2 years ago, I was trying to find partnerships for my podcast because I thought I'm doing a podcast about nature conservation and about these solutions. And I thought that big conservation organizations would like to share my content because we have the same goal, which is to protect nature. And I was so surprised that like almost all organizations turn me down because they just want to promote their own content. They want to do their own work and they want it to be recognized under their name. And I heard that from other conservationists where they tried to cooperate with other conservation organizations. And so it's a lot about ego, that you have to lose this ego and focus on what is really important, which is the goal, and not the fact that you did it and you will credit yourself for the success. So I'm just amazed that it works this way in Madagascar because I haven't seen it in other countries.
We saw that there's a key lesson that we need to consider to be really have a qualitative partnership, starting from shared vision with the partners. Really, the first one, because if you don't have the same vision at the beginning, then no, there's no need to approach to collaborate. And that includes in terms of reproductive health, as you mentioned, people have to be open on these topics because sometimes it's challenging even within the communities speaking about family planning or reproductive health. Sometimes it's sensitive, but you have to be you have to consider this human as a really human right and really see the added value of that to be when it is included within the different conservation or development project in the country. And I mean, what made the difference is really the knowledge sharing, really within the net. I would say within the network and within each organization as well, to share that this works and this is an approach that can be done, and then people learn from it, and yeah, they learn and they try. Of course, they at the beginning they like there's still some questioning, like is it really working or what's really the value of that? Is it have a result? And they like trying, but then when they try, they see the result, and then starting to speak and talk about it to their partners, and that is why it's linked to other partners coming to the network, asking to train, or because they learn from the other organization, for example. And yeah, we saw that really as an indicator for us of success. And
which other countries have these PHE networks? I only know about the Philippines.
Yeah, there is a Philippines which have a good experience. We have as well some great PhD project and network in the Lake Victoria Basin, in Kenya, Uganda as well. They are all PhD community international experts. We are sharing experiences during a regional PhD conference, for example. The next one will be next year. Place to be confirmed, but there will be a regional PhD international community covering.
I just want to add that for anyone who's listening and is interested in this, you can head over to People and Planet website, which is a great place to explore these PHE organizations and projects. Now, one final question, Hanitra, that I wanted to ask about the Enabling Change project is, how has the situation of the lemur, tortoise, and the duck improved over the past few years, or has it improved?
Because of the marsh restoration activities that we have implemented with communities, we could have seen during the last couple of years in the improvement of the status of the number of the remaining pand lemur. With the tortoise, we are not really optimistic, but with the species trafficking, it depends. It is a very high level problem. So there are other parameters to consider. But all we can say for now is that we were able to maintain the number of those remaining tortoise species in the wild. Since the last 3 years, I think there were quite a reduction of loss of plowshare tortoise, but the forest fire is still an issue and a big challenge for us. And for the Madagascar pochard, we have seen an increase in number of those species in the wild because Lake Sofia is so remote and with a small community, so it was easier for us to control the threats and to work with those small communities. And thanks to the Enabling Change project and also the support of other partners, we have really seen an increase of those rare stock in the wild.
And these are great news. Thank you so much for this interview. It was great chatting with you about the PHE approach, and I'm hoping that more organizations worldwide will adopt this approach and get inspired by your work.
Yep. And thank you for your invite and for the podcast. And it's an opportunity for us to share as well, and hope that will inspire many practitioners.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to participate to this podcast.
Thank you.
Hope this could help.
Yes. Thanks so much for listening to this conversation. I hope that it left you with a feeling that no matter how challenging the environment where we live can be, it's worth trying to change it for the better. We can all be solutionaries. If you enjoyed this episode, why not listen to the next one? The easiest way is to subscribe to my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. Or get a monthly newsletter by subscribing to it on my website, veronicaberkova.com. If you have one spare minute, please consider sharing this podcast with your closest friends. I really appreciate your help. I'm Veronica Berkova, and I look forward to talking to you soon.